So is it not interesting that most adults, or I would say every single adult, has been a teenager or a young adult? And for some reason, as parents, we cannot connect to our teens and we can't get them. And I know for sure when we were teens and we were young adults, we had this ability to just feel get so frustrated at our parents, and we just wish they understood us, and for some reason we just can't do it. So today I want to talk about connecting with your teen, connecting with your young adult, because it is something that is going to be so important if we have the ability to connect with them. And I will tell you some secrets behind the scenes because I work with young adults. This is what I do for a living. I coach them, I see them, I have them tell me I just want to be close to my parents, and I want them to get me, I want them to understand me, I want them to trust me, and do all these different things. So if we could start to work on these different ideas, we will be able to have that relationship with them, be able to communicate with them, be able to teach them, and to really guide them, because they are looking for guidance. They are looking for those people in their life to help them see that success that they're looking for. So today we're going to be talking about connecting with your teens. My name is Bennett Schwartz. If you have not been on any of the lives before with me, I am a young adult coach. I do life coaching for young adults. I have a mentoring program called Next Gen Navigator. You can find me at Coaching with Bennett on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on a YouTube channel. I have a podcast, all the good stuff. So feel free to check me out wherever you like to check me out. If you have any questions, you could either put them in the comments over here or reach out moving forward. So when it comes to parenting, it's so interesting. I heard this great line by this other coach, and he was saying how as our kids are growing up, as they're younger, like we have to teach them how to walk. Right? We have to teach them how to eat. We have to teach them how to use the bathroom. We have to teach them to do all these things. But at a certain time in their lives, there comes this switch from being this teacher of saying, hey, do it this way, to sort of being this little lighthouse in their life and showing them and guiding them in terms of what it is we want them to do. And parents have such a hard time transitioning in their roles in terms of what it is they need to be doing for their children. Because for them, in their eyes, they're like, even when they're like 15, 16, 20 years old, they're still that little baby that they're holding on to. And if we could start to recognize, like, hey, you know what? My relationship has changed. My perception has changed of my child. My child is a different person. I have to be different in order to be able to connect with them, in order to be able to reach them and to be able to speak with them. We will start to be able to start connecting with them. And it's so obvious when if you think about it, if you point at somebody else's kid, but when it comes to our own children, we say, no, our kids are not there yet. That's not us. And if we can start to recognize that our role has changed from being this parent who is constantly trying to teach and to guide our children to more of a guide, to be able to be somebody who can help really coach our children in terms of seeing the success that they want. We're going to have to let them fall. We're going to have to let them get hurt. We're going to have to let them go through certain experiences, painful experiences possibly. But understanding that it's our job to let them do that, to help them, to be there as a support, to be there as a guiding light. And so many times I speak to these kids and they're telling me my parents are just so on top of me. They don't trust me. They don't give me any benefit of the doubt. They're constantly looking to get me in trouble. They're constantly nagging me and annoying me and calling me and texting me. One kid literally told me that his dad used to text him. He used to call him 5 or 6 times just to find out where he was when he was hanging out with his friends. And he would get so annoyed he wouldn't answer it until his dad would text him, and then he would just text him, I'm with my friends. And on the one hand, you're like, okay, why is the kid being so pushbacky? But on the other hand, it's like, okay, Dad, let's try to trust our kid a little bit more. Let's see what's going on here. And we, as the adults, have to try to figure out what is it we need to work on. And I heard this great line from Erica Needleman, who is an adult coach. She coaches women. And one of the lines that she said is that we have to understand that when we are working with our children are giving us the thing that we need to be working on. And I think any parent knows that when our kids do things for us, that is the thing that we can be working on. So if you ever have a question about what area of your life you should be working on, just see where your kids are just pushing your buttons and recognizing, hey, that might be an area that I could be doing it. So whether it's whether they're younger and you're working with bath time, whether you're older and they're just challenging you and your own authenticity and your own self and trying to figure all that stuff out, like maybe that's something that we should be working on. Maybe we should be working on our own self-confidence, our own self-worth in terms of what it is that we can do. So then we can start to really have that relationship. We don't have to be so pushed away from our children. And it's interesting because I think so many times as adults, and I guess I'm in that category, we're not working on ourselves. And we have nothing else to use besides for our own egos. And our own egos come out, and our own egos start yelling at our children and start doing and saying things that are really not what we want, and we really know are really not going to be beneficial to them. And over time, we keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and then we're reassuring this. And how many times do we do something that our parents did to us that we knew was really annoying, and then all of a sudden we're the adult and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the same exact thing. And it's something that is so interesting because we know we're doing something, we know we should be switching it, but for some reason we just can't. If we could start to say, hey, you know what, I have this ability to move forward or to change something a little bit, that could be the thing that could really start to move things. And so many times people don't really understand that, and their egos get the best of them. So what is it that we're working on? What can we do with our own personal egos to allow ourselves to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be doing something different. I have the ability to really start to change. And if we could start to do that, then we could start to really move forward and really take advantage of connecting with our teens. And what's interesting is that, like I said earlier, like our teens want to be connected to us. They want to have that relationship. They want to have that guidance. They want it more on their terms, right? And sometimes, they can't have it on their terms. But understanding that, they are willing to connect to us. They do want to have that relationship. And it's on us as the adult, as the mature adult, hopefully, who's going to come and say, okay, you want to have a relationship with me? That's amazing. I want to have a relationship with you. How can we make this work? Because at the end of the day, they're your kid. And they want to have a relationship with you, so you have the ability to do something and change something and not judge them for whatever it is that they're doing. And if we can come in with that, if we could come in with this sense of curiosity, of saying, hey, like you're going through this thing. I see like you're doing something that's like naturally not you. What is that? Like, talk to me. How can I help you with this? Is this something that you're okay with? Is this something you're in pain with? And I think that word curiosity is a beautiful word that we can start to be using whenever we start to judge somebody else, whenever we start to look at somebody else. Instead of putting our opinion on them, just take a step back. Start to say, hey, you know what's going on over here? But out of genuine curiosity. And if we can start to have that with our children, I'm telling you, things are going to be totally different. And we all have that ability. We all can start to be with our children because our children feel it. Our children know us better than we might know us. And it's like, oh, mom or dad did that thing again. Oh, mom's upset. I walked into the house and they could just sense it. So if we could start to realize, the way we show up to them is going to be huge in terms of being able to have that dialogue. Things are going to be very different. And when it comes to our relationship with them, we might think, things have, it's been so bad for so long, or, I really don't trust them. Like, maybe they're really doing things. And it's interesting because a lot of times if you've ever had a conversation with them, if you could have an open conversation with them, you're going to start to see the small little things that you can start to change in order to allow it to happen. And it's not going to happen overnight. And if you think it's going to happen overnight, then you're just being delusional. But understand, we could start to tweak this thing. So when it does happen in 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or a year from now, we can start to recognize, hey, what is it that we can start to move forward? Because at the end of the day, you're going to want to have that relationship. And when are you going to start opening up? And it's being honest with them. And, the older they get, the more honest you can be and the more you can have that dialogue and that conversation. But allowing yourself to start being there to have that connection. Because so many times, and if you have younger kids, this is so important. So many times we are missing out on being able to say anything because we don't have that permission to say something. But we all know those parents or maybe those specific kids who, I could say something and they're going to really listen. They're really going to hear me. It's because you built that relationship. You built that rapport with your child. And because you built that rapport, you have permission, quote unquote, to be able to say something. And this goes with really any relationship, with a spouse or with any coworker, whatever it is. You have the ability to connect with those people because you built that rapport. And the question is how are you going to build that rapport? How are you going to be able to engage in those conversations? And that is something that is so powerful that so many people don't necessarily think about. So here is a great tip. Going back to tip number 1, but what it is we can start to do in order to be able to have that relationship, we have to ask open-ended questions. Okay, that's the biggest trick you can ask for. Open-ended questions is asking a question that doesn't end in the words yes or no, or sure, or maybe. It's not a one-word answer. It engages in the conversation. You might ask, okay, Bennett, so how do you ask an open-ended question? That's a great question. And what I will say is you start the sentence or the question with the word what. Just the word what. So the difference between asking, do you like pizza, or what pizza do you like? Do you like going to restaurants, or what's your favorite restaurant? There's a difference. There's more to be able to engage in that conversation. Then you can start to hook onto the things that they're looking for. And I think if we can start to understand and start to appreciate that, and we can start to engage, it doesn't have to be like a whole sit-down official meeting on the couch and try to have this conversation. It could just be like, hey, what was your favorite part of school today? Not like, how was school today? Because you're going to get a good or bad. And if we can start to say, hey, what was your favorite part of school today? And then they can say, oh, I really like gym today, or lunch was great, or I'm happy I had a substitute teacher today. because one of my teachers were missing. It's like, okay, great. So what class was missing? And you can continue to engage in this conversation. And if we could start to have that rapport and we could start to be able to slowly build it up, then when the time comes, they will be there and they will be open for us. And I would also say when we're trying to have that conversation or that connection with them, understand that we might have to work on their terms in terms of when they're ready to open up. And a lot of times they might not be ready to open up. And this is one of the one big credit that I give to my mom, because my mom used to she told me now as an adult, she said, every night when it was like 11:30 and I like finally got showering and I was ready to like just head to bed, I'd always go to my mom's room and I would end up like talking with her. My dad was already sleeping and I would end up talking with my mom for like an hour or so. And she said she was so, as an adult, as a person, she was like so exhausted. But she knew, she's like, if my son, and it wasn't just me, apparently my siblings also did it. She's like, if my son is willing to come speak to me, and this is the time of the day where he is going to be able to open up and be genuine and to maybe ask for support, like, I want to be there for them. So she never kicked us out of her room, which, okay, maybe you could debate it's okay or not okay, but recognizing how beautiful that is, that my mom was willing to sacrifice her own sleep in order to be able to build a relationship with her children, who, thank God, we all have a very close relationship with her. So when your kid is like trying to go to bed, or if your kid, it's like the worst timing, but he like wants to be able to like finally open up to you, instead of like being like, no, I need to go, or I can't, now's not the right time. Like, ask yourself, like, is it really worth it? Because even if it's only for 5 minutes, we can start to engage in a conversation that could really help us later on. And being able to have that communication, or just that channel of communication, is going to be so much more beneficial for our children, because when the time does come that we do have to say something, that we do have to give that advice, then we are able to have that conversation with them. And it's so important that so many people just, they poo-poo it, they don't have enough time, they don't have this and they don't have that, and guess what? Yeah, so like, why would your kid be close to you if you never have time? Like, what are our priorities? And I think everybody would say their priority is their family. That's maybe top 3 for sure. And if we can start to say, so if it's such a priority, let me see my schedule. Is it really a priority, or is it am I just saying it? It's just like lip service. And if it really is a priority, so what is it that I can have those times? And if, let's say we literally don't have any time, so when the time that we do have, how can we make it the most meaningful? Or when we're speaking to our children, are the devices away? Everybody's device, our children's device, our device. When we're speaking to our children, are we looking in their eyes, or just talking to them like backs facing each other because like we're both doing something? And sometimes it's fine and appropriate that way, but other times to really have a deep conversation with somebody, you could speak with somebody for 3 minutes, but if you're looking into each other's eyes, how powerful is that? And all these are like such little tricks and tips that you can start to use in order to allow yourself to just feel more connected. And like I said earlier, our kids want it. And if you might say our kids don't want it, but I'm telling you, I work with these kids and they tell me I want relationships. The kids who are like the quote unquote troublemakers, who everyone is like trying to just like, they're like pulling their hair out. Those are the kids who tell me, yeah, you know what? I would, and it's not even like I'm asking them like, what do you want to work on? Like, I really want to work on my relationship with my parents. And that is so powerful, just to understand that and to see that. So even if they deny it, they don't say it. What is it that you can do? How is it that you can put yourself out there and say, hey, my hand is here. Whenever you want it, I'm ready to help. Not to be nagging, not to be on top of them. And if we could start to build that trust with them, because a lot of it's trust and a lot of it is really just being there and like believing in them, then I'm telling you, those are like the 2 key secrets in order to allow our children to feel us being connected to them. And so many parents don't necessarily trust their kids, or they don't see like a future for their kids, or they say, okay, they're going through this phase, in 10 years I'll worry about it then, or in 10 years they'll probably figure it out. But it's like, no, dude, you're better than that. Come on, like what's coming up for you? You know what? Last time you took the car out, you really stayed out too late. What happened? How can we change it differently? Because I want to be able to build that trust with you. And then we can start to figure out all these different things that we can start to do. And so many times we have that ability to connect with them. And if we can start to work on that, if we can start to connect with them, it's going to be something that could change everything. And so many people just don't spend the time. They're not having that connection with their children. And we can have incredible relationships with them. And when they're going through things, they're going to come to us and they're going to help save us. And it's something that is so powerful when it comes to whatever it is that we're looking to do. So when we are trying to have these conversations, when we're trying to speak with our children, be present with them, be there with them, try to just open up that channel so when the time does come, they're going to be ready to be able to just vomit everything they have to say all over you. And you're going to love it. It's going to be the best vomit you ever tasted. And we can start to do that. We can start to really figure out what it is we need to be doing. And so many times people don't have these answers. They don't have these skills and tools. And maybe sometimes it is worth getting somebody else in there, because one of the things that I love doing in my work is that I can be serious with these teens, right? I call them out, and I have permission to do it, right? Being their coach, I have permission to call them out, to say, hey, what's going on here? Why do your parents not trust you? And they tell me, yeah, because I take advantage X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay, great. So then of course they're not going to trust you. So how can we work on that? And really maybe get somebody else involved. And I think OKclarity is a great platform to find anybody. If you're not sure, ask me. I'd love to set you up with somebody. But recognize that we have the ability to be working on these different things. And if we can start connecting with our children, if we can open up that channel, I'm telling you, it's going to change everything for them. The difference between a kid who has somebody who believes and trusts in them, even when they fail, you can't compare that to somebody who doesn't. Think about yourself right now. If you had somebody who, no matter what, trusted in you and thought the world of you, and every time you messed up, they were so confused, what? That's not like you. What's going on? Right? If someone who just wanted, I'm going to cheer for you no matter what. I'm going to be there for you. Imagine how you would feel. So imagine a kid who is more emotionally unstable. Be there for them. Show them and genuinely be there. Don't just say things, but actually feel it. Feel their pain when they're going through pain. Feel their joy when they're going through joy. Are you connecting with them? One of the great pieces of advice that I got from one of my mentors growing up was that this is more when I was teaching, he was telling how teachers a lot of the times they have to put on this facade about not caring about certain things that maybe might be the most proactive thing for children. So in our circles, maybe it's music, or maybe it's sports, or it was something like that, something silly like that. And the question is if you really want to connect with the kid and you really want to have an impact on the child, so you're going to have to be interested in what they're interested in, because they're not going to be interested in what you're interested in if you're not interested in what they're interested. And if we can start to recognize that, hey, what is my kid into? Is my kid into sports and I have no idea what sports is? So let me sit down and ask some questions about sports. Let me try to figure out what's going on here, that I can start to understand my child just a little bit more. I won't ever understand it to the extent that they will know, but I'm putting in an effort to try to understand, figure out what's going on here. And they're going to see that effort. They're going to say, hey, you know what? Something's different about my mom, or something's different with my dad right now. And I like it. I really appreciate it that they're trying to figure it out. And maybe they'll call you out on it, and that's fine. And you're like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you're interested in this thing. There's probably something to it. How can I get curious about what's going on over here? And I think if we can start to working on these different ideas, I'm telling you, things will change. You will start to have those connections. You will start to have those relationships. Another 2 minutes. So if anybody's any questions, you can feel free to put it down in the chat down below. But also recognizing that if we can just be the mature ones and say, hey, you know what? More important than my ego right now, more important than me being right now, is the relationship with my kid, because I'm playing the long game right now. I'm understanding that, you know what? Right now, I want to rip his head off. But on the other hand, I know in the long term, it's going to be more beneficial to me. And if I could start to focus on that, then I could start to do literally anything, because I could have that communication. I could start to speak to them and really start to do all the things that I want to be doing. And so many people don't realize it, but we have that ability to connect with them. We have that ability to really make things happen. That being said, if anybody is interested, because I'm doing one of these OKclarity lives, I would be happy to give a free consulting call. We actually have a really cool special going on right now with our program, Next Gen Navigator. So if you do have any young adults or any teens or whoever it is that is looking to just really work on their own personal development, work on their productivity, really just get that guidance, that mentorship, we have an amazing program. I'd love to be able to share. You feel free to DM me over here on Instagram. You can find me, like I said, on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter. You can find me on all the different platforms. We have a podcast. Really, really good stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And just a quick recap, understand that we need to build that relationship. We don't want to be a helicopter parent. We want to be the lighthouse to our children. We want to be able to show them who it is that we can start to be, and really start to work on and try to figure out all these different things that we can really connect to with our children. And if we could start to just open those channels, when the time comes, they're going to be ready to be able to just talk to us. They're going to be there for us. We shouldn't be judging them. We should get more curious and really just understand our children. And as long as we could start to trust them in a sincere way, and really start to understand in a way that we really can work on ourselves and really be there for our kids and really believe in them, that's going to be the thing that's going to change everything. Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much. That was a very sweet comment over there. I don't know if I should be saying this out loud or not, but a teen is on here and they're saying they really appreciate what's going on. So yeah, my no problem. yeah, I think it's really important. So if you have any questions, feel free to DM me, and I could even talk to your parents, make things happen. But hopefully your parents are awesome, which they probably are awesome. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, I'll stay on for another minute or so. You can feel free to stay on. It could be about this, it could be about anything. I don't know. But feel free to reach, feel free to stick on. I'll stay on for another minute or so. And like I said, we have this really cool program for anybody who's interested, young adults, really working on things, getting that guidance, getting that real direction in our lives. That's going to be really, really cool. And I'm assuming nobody's going to be asking any questions, so we'll catch everybody in the next one. If anybody has any other topics in this area, you could also let me know. I'd be happy to do it on the next live that I do jointly with OKclarity. All right, everybody. Hope you're all good. Have a great evening, and peace.